and fulfilled in their companionship. Some, and sex doesn't even have to be a major part of it at all. I mean, it depends on the agreement people have, and some can be, definitely sex is, a major part of it. Like most of it. Others can be for security. The safety of coming together, and we know that together we really bring our energies, and it works really well. Here's what we're able to accomplish, and as long as the both parties are able to have these conversations and discussions, these dialogues, that where they agree and honoring their agreements and so on, or whatever needs to be changed, then they discuss again, and it's all workable, as long as we make these agreements, and we have these dialogues and discussions, and honoring each other and so on. Then it can work, whatever it is, whatever it's meant to be. Doesn't have to be some kind of ideal, Hollywood, you get together and you're married, and you have the white picket fence and everything is kind of perfect the way we see it on the movies or whatever. It's not. It doesn't really. I mean, it doesn't mean that it can't work that way, but it's not usually the case. You know what I mean? But these agreements can be for um, I see the recorder, for anything. It can be whatever we decide to to agree upon. So,
It's funny, as I process it, for me, I wrote a piece years ago, and it was on compromise, and it was around business, right? And how in business, you got to compromise things. You got to compromise, work versus play, and all the things that your values versus being competitive, and making money versus being philanthropic. So it's just a consistent perspective, and the analysis kind of went into a context of we're always compromising things all the time. Compromise, and it's not necessarily a bad word. It's like when you row a boat, right? Like in my sport of rowing, right? There's port and starboard, and you're rowing in this long, skinny shell with these 12-foot oars, and you're consistently compromising the balance in order to keep the boat straight, whether it be any boat or a rowing boat or a sailboat or whatever, right? And it's funny because when I think of a sailboat, when you sail, it's not about being flat. It's about being at a 45-degree angle and flying hull, right? In a sailboat. You're compromising balance in an extreme way, because that's what the wind requires. That's what, the winds of change require, right? And as I consider this in the context of business or relationships, I guess the key is that as human beings, as souls, we have to determine what we're willing to compromise. And I think the moral of the story is, don't compromise the uncompromisable. Don't compromise your integrity and yourself and your honor, or whatever you deem uncompromisable. Because I think a lot of people will compromise that, and maybe they'll stay in a relationship or stay in a business, and they'll compromise what's really valuable to them if for the sake of their soul, potentially.
That's very common. There's so many relationships like that, for sure.